Hello everyone, welcome back to the Underground Cave. I am Gel-Tip and you're watching Mini Painting with Gel-Tip. Now, this is just a paint along. It's me working on Xiao Liu from Reaper Miniatures right over here. So 77418 is the code number. Hopefully if you had seen last week or seen the VOD, you have picked up your female monk and have started painting her. This will be part 2 of our 4-week process, and I'll show you what where we ended up. I haven't touched her since last Sunday, so let's see where she is and what we can do with her today. And I'll also go over the paints that we used last week, and yeah. So if you have your supplies and you have your brushes and everything's ready to go, then let's just paint. All right, so welcome in everybody to part 2 of our female monk painting extravaganza. Oh, I got something in my wet palette that I need to get out. I don't know what that is, but we'll just pull that out. Yeah, so I will fix the wet palette now that I've totally destroyed it. There we go. Get these air bubbles out. And we'll go into painting our female monk. Now, I think what we're trying to do is go with a little bluish tone to her in the shirt and in the vest. And then we took her to some other parts just to get some paint on her. I might need more water in the wet palette. It doesn't seem to want to end up not wrinkling, so we're just going to squirt some water in there. Oops. And spray everything. And let this really get nice and soaked. There we go. That should hopefully get rid of some of the bubbles. If you're getting a lot of bubbles, push them out to the side or get more water in that wet palette. Let it slide around. Your paper should kind of slide around just a little bit. All right. All right. Hey, Orc, what's going on? Lurking while you're working, lurking until bed. This guy paints too well. Maybe I paint too well. Ladies and gentlemen, let me just quickly go over the paints that we're using, and then we'll show off where we ended up with our female monk. So we're going to use a contrast. This was our Guilliman Flesh contrast. This is a very thin brown. Now you can use a transparent brown or a brown ink or something, but this is how we started with the face to get those darker areas, and then we went in with the flesh tone, right? So we went into the flesh tone. We're using two thin coats, dwarven skin, and we're going to apply some ivory to that to lighten it up as we had done. So there's our bright ivory from Monument Hobbies, the Pro Acryl. Still staying in the Pro Acryl series, we started using some golden yellow as just a regular yellow. This was done for the hair, so we'll have to get some of the hair kind of cleaned up. Right now it's just a rough sketch. And we used blue. So there is 2 of the primary colors. Also, I'm good. Yes, I'm glad that you're good. Hopefully you're relaxing on this Sunday before the work week. If you have, we're going to do Sunday paint-alongs until May, and then I think we're going to switch over to Thursdays again for the summer. So I'll try to keep giving you an idea of the miniatures, so if you do want to paint along with us, Orc, you may do so. So there's our 2 primary colors that we're using, blue and yellow. We're going to add in a 3rd primary color, red, but that's going to become in the shape of Monument's mahogany. This is more of a reddish brown, and we can start lightening this up with ivory and yellows or blues, whatever we need to do there. We're going to use from Reaper Miniatures this Misty Gray 09090. This is to mute down colors. We can use the same blues and the same yellows by muting them down so that they're not so vibrant. because we want to have that vibrancy contrast. And for our dark lining, we're going to add in some black. Now the black might be for the boots, or the black might be for simple dark lining around different material shifts. We'll have to just see what that's going to be. So there you have it. Those are the 9 paints that we're going to be using today, or 8 paints. No, it's 9, isn't it? No, it's 8. 8 paints. I don't think I was using another paint, but if I am, we'll find out. And here's where we left off with her. So this is where she's at. This is what we did 2 weeks ago, or excuse me, last week. And basically we put this was a flat staff. So we actually made all that wood grain in there, so it looks like it's got more texture than it should have. So, and then we have all of the blue and the light blue. Now we added a little bit of ivory to that blue to lighten it up. So that's kind of where we're going to go with that. At least I think I did. Somebody can correct me wrong if I didn't mix it. So we're going to get some good paint along music here. So let's go over into Pretzel Rocks and find out what music we can listen to. And just so I don't blow out your eardrums, we'll bring this back down to, let's do 34.7. There you go. That looks good. And yeah, let's find out what kind of paint along music we want. How about main character? That sounds like a good one. We'll just throw in some main character. There we go. All right. So we got our little bottle of water here that for the dropping if we need to, and then I just need to look at this really quick and find out where we left off. I should have probably reviewed the VOD myself, but I did not. So, all right. So let me get my magnifiers on and find out what we're going to be painting on this today. Full disclosure, everything that I paint is only going to be tabletop or tabletop plus. Nothing's going to ever win you an award, but you could take it one step farther and keep on painting. I'll give you the tools to do that. The paint-alongs are just more for me to paint, and you can apply the techniques that I use when we paint. All right, so in this face, things are looking a little rough sketched. So what I'm going to do is go into my mahogany. Mahogany has red in it, so does the flesh tone. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of this mahogany, not a lot, you don't need a lot. It's a very dark color, and I'm also going to go into my flesh tone that I used. That's the Dwarven Flesh from Two Thin Coats. And we're going to create a little mixture there. See, I don't have a lot because there's not too much. And what this is going to be is a lining for the face to the hair. So what we're going to do is we're going to get 3 drops of this nice water. And we're going to mix, and we're going to go with a very nice lining brush right here. See this lining brush? And that's what we're going to use, the tip of that. Now before we do anything, I just have to, there we go. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of this mahogany, that's too much, and put it in this water. And then I'm going to take some of the flesh tone, you guessed it, and stick it in that water. And you're going to get sort of this nice little lighter color. And I might want to go a little darker, so I'll grab a little bit more of the mahogany. You don't want straight up very dark mahogany. We're not black lining this. What we want to do is get around the hair. And so we're going to test this out. Gonna go on our thumb. Look how thin that is, right? And so we're just gonna take this, make sure I'm on stream, and we're just gonna go around the hair, the head, and just kind of paint it in there. This kind of creates a little shadow and a little depth. And it also brings out any of that highlight that we have in there on the face. But more importantly, we kind of smooth things out between the hair and the face. It's sort of like a glaze, but we're painting with the glaze. And I'll even get it right in here. See, all I'm doing is touching and letting the moisture kind of stay where I want it to. Whoops, too much moisture, so we'll just kind of stab at it to get it out. It might be too thin. Let's see if we can make this a little bit thicker. So I'm gonna add a little bit more of the mahogany. A little bit more of the flesh. And that's the trick, right? So this is what people have to practice. You want a nice thin paint so that you can get into these areas. You don't want it too thick, because if you paint on, you want it to kind of just blend in with everything. And so I'm just taking the tip of the brush and I'm just kind of stabbing where I want this to land. And so that will kind of glaze that in. And then we'll do the same thing in the dark recesses of the hair. Whoops. Do I want to do it in the recess? No, I'm sorry, I said that wrong. I want to do it where the hands are. Oh. Just move that into the shirt. And that will kind of bring the hand out a little bit more, like those fingers. So you can go in where the thumb is, these fingers, thin paint, let it just kind of fall where it's supposed to. We'll do the same on the other side. Because I feel like these are just a little too light, so I kind of want to darken them up a little bit. So I'm just using the tip of the brush and I'm letting the paint flow into the fingers. I'm not really painting the fingers, I'm just stabbing at the areas that, right? And just stabbing at those areas and letting the paint go into the place where it's supposed to go. And right next to the shirt, gives a little shadow where the shirt is. And that'll read the hands that way. And maybe I'll zoom in a little bit because this is a small miniature. So let me just quickly zoom in. So I was a little late with everything, so I didn't get a chance to do all of my preliminary tests, so this might need to be zoomed in just a tad bit. So let's see, if I'm painting here, then we want this to come this way. Come on. I think we had it at 375 last week, didn't we? Yeah. All right, fly. And okay, we're good. Excellent. There we go. And you can see where I shaded in her hands. Once that dries, it'll be darker. And then we can apply more highlights as needed. All right. And I think what we said is that our eyes were going to be closed, right? So for those of you that weren't here with us last week, we're going to apply some highlights, which is we started with this bright ivory, and we're going to add that bright ivory into our flesh tones So we'll get a little bit of ivory on there. And it's very small amounts of ivory into our flesh tone. So we're just going to take this. All right. And it's not a lot of ivory. See, that's how much ivory I've got on the brush. I'm going to stick it in. It will brighten it up. Of course, I think we've already done this, so I'm going to add a little bit more ivory to get to the next level. And we're just going to thin that down just a little bit. Make our brush wet. We want thin paint. Don't get rid of any details. And I'm just going to paint around that edge that we put in there, just to kind of fine-tune it just a bit. We have some highlights already on here, but I want to make sure that we're really getting those highlights in there. And I'm going to get right in to where that hair. I'm going to try to go as much as I can where I'm not hitting that dark line. Same thing on this neck piece. I'm using the tip of the brush, just kind of stabbing, trying to make sure that I can keep that dark line that we just painted in there. Because what we really want to do is kind of smooth a lot of that dark shadows out. Same thing on the hand. I'm just going to kind of hit the middle of this hand right here because I want to push that dark back towards the sleeve. Just so the sleeve casts the shadow. That's all. You're not getting rid of that entire dark line. You're just trying to get rid of the flat stuff. So if you got anything on the fingers, you could probably just paint on the fingers themselves. So we'll just do this. Do this. And then we'll connect this hand. Just kind of cover up that flash right there, that mold line for now. There we go. Thin out this thumb just a tad bit. There we go. So what we want to do is make this nice and thin. Very thin, very thin. Okay. I'm going to add a little more ivory to that flesh tone. Whoops, that's a lot of ivory to that flesh tone. Again, it's two colors, and most people, they end up going to different flesh tones, and what they don't realize is that flesh tones are all different colors and mixes. So if you just kind of stay with one flesh tone and highlight with that one flesh tone, it'll look a lot more natural. So I'm just going to kind of get my highlights back in here where we started with last week. So this is how we can kind of clean this up. I need to get a nice dark line. Now with females, they don't have that little wrinkle between the nose and the forehead, so we're not going to do that either. So a nice big smooth area here. We're going to get the cheeks in there. You can get the upper lip right under the nose very carefully and around the mouth. See that? It's going around the mouth, onto the chin, go around the mouth onto the chin. We'll get that cheek there. And then we'll apply some over here to the chest area and the bottom of the neck area if I can. Not too much on the neck because her chin and her hair is covering up some of the light, so you do want that definition. But we want to kind of keep some of that lining there and try to, I think this needs to be smoother instead of a regular line, so we'll come back in and make that nice and smooth. But there should be a line right between there, so. Okay. And go in with this color a little bit. Just kind of get around this neck area. You can kind of see where the shadows are. There we go. All right, we'll come back after that's nice and dry. The other thing that we can do to get the dark around the face is to actually lighten up the hair. So let's get some yellow onto our palette. And again, ivory is a very powerful color, just like white. So we don't want to use a lot of ivory. So I'm going to take some of this yellow that we have and some of the ivory. And I don't think we used pure yellow last week. Maybe we did. But this is going to be a lighter yellow. It's already lighter, I can see it. So I don't want to put too much more ivory in. And we're not at the stage yet where we can just start creating layers of lines like hairs, but we do want to get to those curves. So anywhere where there's a curve on the hair, which is a halo effect, you want to just kind of just scratch, and whatever you catch. But again, it's not really you're not doing hair by hair. You're not making it like a candy cane stripe. You just want to scratch it right at the curve. Then over here in the front, because that's where people look at, we'll make that a little bit brighter. Right here in the front, we'll make this a little bit brighter. Break it up a little bit. So right here, I'll break this up right into here. And whatever I catch, right? You're not really... So right here, there's going to be some light. Maybe I catch a little bit up here. And then I catch some right here. You'll see it because it's going to be a lighter yellow than what you just put on there. And it just reinforces a lot of that color you threw on here for the dark areas. So I'm just kind of picking and choosing where I want this highlight color to be. And see, it even darkens the face out just a little bit. And I kind of want to get this to be a little bit lighter in the front here. Go. Not too bad, not too bad. Take some of this mahogany color. We started with mahogany, so I'm just going to actually paint a small little line right in there to give it some separation. Maybe I'll put a little darkness right in this little area, this triangle, giving it a little bit of a separation there. Maybe down here. Just a little bit. I'm not doing it everywhere. I'm not going in between the hairs or anything like that. This coincidentally will be the color that I use to kind of frame out the hair down the road. I did get blue on the hair down here, so we'll make that into shadow. And then we can fix that up down the road. Because we can add yellow to that mahogany like we did before and create a nice bunch of hair there. But you can start to see how that starts to pull through. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit more ivory to that yellow that we just used. It'll be even brighter. And you guessed it, we're going to go in and we're going to scratch it again. But this time I'm just going to do it in very little controlled spots. Still not really too worried about inside and outside. I'm just trying to make this little tiny halo, because what's going to happen is when we get to the white or the ivory itself, that's when we pick out little individual hairs and just get a little dot in between. So you want this to kind of have a little shine to it. Again, you're just going to kind of scratch a little surface where the yellow is. Right here where this curves. That's what I'm going to do. So when you're doing hair, you figure out where it curves and you stick with that highlighting scheme. Right? So since it's curving out this way, I want to curve out that way. Right? This is curving out, so we're going to give it a nice little touch there. This curves right here, so we kind of curve it right there. This one here, this one comes straight down, so we'll just kind of make it shine right here. Notice that this curves this way, so that's the way I'm going to do that. And this one curves this way, so that's the way I'm going to do that. And I'm just staying with one curve. I'm not doing all the curves. There we go. And then we can do the front just a little bit right here. Do the front right here. Okay. All right. So we're going to wait on that. And you can start to see now the face breaking it away from the hair, because we've lightened up the hair. We've kind of lightened up the face in certain areas. I'll lighten up that face just a little bit more with some ivory, keeping that same flesh tone with the ivory. Still the same thin paint. Just going to get into the middle of the forehead, because that's where my skull is. The middle of the forehead, down the nose. The top lip. Give her some nice bright cheeks. Make those eyelids close just a little bit more. She's meditating, she's thinking, where is my enemy? Okay. Give her a little bit more on the bosom area. A little bit more on the bosom area, and just in the neck area in the middle. Not going all the way down the neck. I do want to keep just a tad bit of darkness in that neck area. All right. Do the same thing on the hands, just to give the hands a quick little highlight. And so I'll just kind of stay around the knuckle area. There we go. Oops. All right. So what I'm going to do with the blue now is I have to go in and fix something with the blue really quick. So I'll let you guys catch up while I'm fixing up with the blue. Until you think that your hair and your face is good to go. There's a couple things that I just need to repaint on the blue. So you can give me just a moment. I will do that very quickly. You probably already have a nice clean miniature. I do not. So the blue that I wanted to get on was where? I think it was down here. I painted something on. Maybe I already fixed that. I think I'm, oh, here's where I wanted to fix, right here. All right. So I said that I wanted to, so I'm using the same blue on all of this, but I wanted to make a lighter blue with this darker blue. So the way I make this a darker blue is by making this a lighter blue. And so we already added in a little bit of gray or ivory. I can't remember what we used, but we're going to do the same thing. So we're going to take that ivory and we're going to add this gray. And I think it was the gray that we added in. Can't totally remember. We're muting the blue. Now I'm just going to add a little bit of ivory. Oh yeah, that's what I did. I added some ivory. I also add a little bit of gray and more ivory. We want to make that nice and light. Now, since we got 3 paints in there, we'll mix it up a little bit with water. Just add a drop of water. Mix it up. Nice thin paint. And let's see if we've done this correctly. If you can't see it, that means we've got the same color, which is great. And I'm just gonna go in and I'm just gonna kind of repaint over some stuff. Because now I know that we have the same color. And we're gonna actually go in and make it brighter. And so I'm just repainting on all of my light blue surfaces. And so you can't really see a difference because there is no difference, which is fantastic. And I'll fix the pants up later. I think the pants actually go up that high. No, I think we're good with that. It's a little imperfection in the miniature, but that's all right. It's a game piece. We don't really care too much. All right. So with that, I'm actually going to go in with a little bit more ivory and mix in that to get a nice brighter blue. And the gray is there to mute it down. So not only will it be brighter, but it won't be as vibrant as this blue right here. And so all I'm going to do is just kind of go back in, and I'm going to stay at the top. So I'm going to follow the top, and then I'll work in the folds after. But that's kind of how you want to do this if you want some lighting. So since I kind of want the top of her arm to be bright, then I can start pulling in all of these folds here. And I don't have to go all the way down. I can just do it until I feel it's pretty bright where I want it to be bright. So like that, right? So you're gonna start at the top. And there's a little fold here, so I don't want to do that fold. And I'm just gonna kind of pull it to the top in one angle, turn it over and pull it to the top in another angle. That's how I get these little folds in here, or this highlight. So I'll bring it over this way and I'll paint up towards the highlight. Why? Because that's where most of my paint is dropping. And then I'll worry about these folds down here. So I kind of and then we'll do the same thing over here. I'll just take this and I'll try to get as close to the highlight as I can. Trying to make these, I don't want to lose that other highlight color, so I'll just try to get as close as I can to the edge so that everything kind of blends in. And if you want, you can do this little line here. I think there's a little we can make a pattern here going forward. But the point here is I want to kind of really mute this down, so we'll add more ivory to it, but I just kind of want to add some blending to it, so I'm just using this brighter blue to keep everything nice and bright. And we'll do some down here. It's a game piece, so you don't have to worry too much about dynamic lighting, but you want to highlight certain areas to call out other sections. Like this sleeve here, I'm going to highlight down here, even though it wouldn't normally get the highlight, or I'd use a darker blue. And again, we'll take some of that ivory and we'll mix it in there. And we're also going to take that gray and mix some gray in there, because we want to keep this kind of muted down a little bit. Gray is a nice neutral color and it will keep the color. And I just kind of highlighted, made it brighter again. And so we're going to continue doing the same thing on that shirt that we just did. You're going to start at the top where you want the highlight to be. And this time I'm just kind of, my paint is a little wet, so I'm just kind of very much, or you know, just kind of stippling where that is catching. And then I'm just going to pull it down to where I need the folds to be. I don't know if I explained that correctly, but hopefully you're following along, and hopefully by now you know what I'm actually saying. And if you don't, then I apologize. You can always ask questions, but all I'm doing is starting where the highest highlight is and pulling down to where it's naturally highlighted, where the folds are. Keeping some of that other blue in there. So over here in the front, maybe I'm just on top of these folds here, keeping that one color in play. There's like this little line here that I'm trying to stay away from, trying to keep that little separating line. And as this dries, it will become more blue, but you can start to see it kind of muting down a bit. So I'm just gonna kind of do the same thing over here. Kind of want this to be highlighted right here, right to this elbow that's bent, and I'll keep that not highlighted because I want the elbow to kind of be seen there. So I'll just pull all this stuff up here, do this side of the folds, and we'll do the same thing over here. So I want to kind of embrace these folds right here, not that elbow fold. So maybe sort of like right here. There we go. Hopefully, as we do this, you can actually see that blue vest starting to pop more. And then I'll just try to get a couple small highlights on the back side here, kind of wherever I can read those folds. All right. Now watch this. We're going to actually frame in that blue vest, and I'm going to take just a smidge of black. So I'm going to take a little smidge of black. No, that didn't come out at all. Now, what you can do is take black contrast and just use black, but instead, I'm going to use this black to do what I want to do, because I want to mix it with the blue. So again, if you're watching a wet palette, here is my blue. See that blue? I'm not going to take a lot of black. That might even be too much black on there. See that? But watch what happens when I put that black in here. Oh, did I even pull any black? I can't really see because I have a... Is there something wrong with this black? It's going in as a wash, not a... I mean, I could see the darkness of it, but... Let's try this one more time. There's my black, right? You see black on there? What am I using? It says Dragon Black. I don't understand why it's coming out like that. I'm not getting the black pigment. Give me one sec. Have to use my vortex mixer. You might hear a sound. All right, now I can hear it shaking up. Let's give this one more try. Black. Here's my blue. I'm gonna stick it right here. And take some black. There we go. Take some black, mix it up. There it is. That's what we're looking for. All right. And we'll take a little more black. I want it a little bit darker than that. That looks good. We're gonna add a little bit of water, make sure it's all mixed up. I don't want to add a lot of water. I'm not making a glaze, I'm making a very thin paint. Because what I want to do is I want to go in and line. I might have too large of a brush. So I'm going to use my little liner here. It's a nice thin paint, so my liner will work. And what I'm going to do is I'm just anywhere the vest, I'm going to frame out the vest. And here's what happens. You're just going to draw that line nice and straight in that corner. And the thinner, that's not a glaze, it's got to be a thin paint that you can paint with, the better. See that? That's how that works. Watch on the top here where the sleeve is. See, if I use black, it's good because it's a darker color and it will work. But if you use a darker color, as in one of your two colors that you've used, then it looks a little more natural. I mean, you can use black. It's just more of a drawing style. And see that blue, it still separates out your colors, making it a little neater right? If somebody says you have to be neater with your paint, just means that they want you to do this little lining air to make things neat. Now, if you make too thick of a line, like I just did, because I'm using this blue, I can go back in and lighten stuff up, and it's not going to affect anything. But see, what you want to do is frame out that vest so you really can see it. So again, down here, right, there's no framing of the vest, so you don't know where one starts. It looks just a mess in here. Once you start doing this, right, and then you can do the same thing up here, except because there's a flesh up here, I might do this brown instead of doing blue. But there is a little piece here that comes across that you can do a blue line to separate out. So you see? And then there's a little separating line down here where the belt is. Right? So this is what you would do at the end, but I'm doing it now because I need to define some lines before I go farther into highlighting. And I will just very carefully get this blue line next to our flesh tone, make it look like there's material there. Okay. Oh, you guessed it. Yep, I hear everybody. You want it around the hands? So a lot of times you can do this in, you know, a darker brown. But I hear you. If we did it on the neck, we'll do it on the hands here. And so I'm just staying as close to that sleeve as I possibly can, making sure that you can see the hand. She wants to come off. There we go. And so now that dark line where the hands is separates the sleeve from the hand. We'll show it one more time. Taking this dark blue paint and just going into the recesses like this. Going this way. And then right under the belt. And it just kind of separates out those two blues, making things nice and neat and clean. And again, you can do this with contrast paint if you wish. Nothing wrong with that. Get yourself a free thinned out paint. And I think I have to do this hand over here. So staying close to that sleeve. But I'm not going to do it around the staff because the staff is not blue. All right. And I could do it around the hair, but I think I'm going to save that for the dark brown. All right. I'm going to take some of this ivory and I'm going to actually just use this ivory and this lining brush to pick out some curves of the hair, and it's going to be in between that light yellow. So right here, And this is where I'm picking out hair. Now I don't have to do this if I can keep the ivory controlled, but since I'm dealing with such a small spot, I'm just gonna dot individual hairs that I can touch. And it will start to give that little halo effect and that shine of the hair that everybody has. See? Same thing over here. There's one right there I could see. And it's not even, you don't even have to do a lot. You can just dot as much as you want to dot. And we'll do the same thing over here. Now you could do this with white. I just didn't put any white on my palette this week. Only the curves though, don't do all the hair. You only want where it curves the most. So see all of these curves here, that's where I'm going with it. And if you want to do this lone one down here, just because it's all by itself, you can do that. And that's pretty much all you have to do with the hair to give it some volume. And if you don't like what you did, you can always glaze it down with yellow. But I do want to kind of want to blend this in just a little bit more. So I'm going to take some of this yellow, just pure yellow, and I think it was mahogany we used. And I think we used a little bit of gray. And we're going to use a whole lot of water because I'm making a glaze now. So making this glaze. And I just kind of want to glaze in a little bit over here just to kind of blend this all together. It looks a little rough. Do the same thing back here. So I'm just softening things down a little bit, trying to get things a little bit more blended in. And I will take some of this yellow here, transfer it in there, and do the same thing closer to the yellow. I'll take some more of this yellow. Do it again. So anywhere where there is yellow, just trying to get a little bit more blending. Let's see how that looks. There we go. Kind of like that. And I'll get some down here. I'll get some down here. I'm going to just grab a little bit of this bright yellow, because I do kind of feel bad that this right here is not catching the light as it should. So I'm just looking to see where certain things would hit. How's that look? I kind of like that better. Although I do want to get this to be just a little bit lighter. And the front of this to be a little bit lighter. So you can play with the hair as much as you want to get it to the way you want to look, make it look. So I feel like this right here, since we darken that down a little bit in there, we should have a little bit of light in here. And this probably could have got just pure yellow, but I'm just kind of bringing in some, I don't like that. Let's take this and a little more ivory. Let's see, mahogany. Sorry, I don't like what I did here. So I'm just gonna bring this back too. I mean, I want there to be a dark in there. That was just too light. Maybe I just don't do anything there. I just keep everything this way. All right. I'm not gonna stress about that, because I think what I'm trying to do is work with this when it's not fully framed. So I got to go back, and this is where I wanted to fix my vest. So I have some hair that I painted, or I have some brown that I painted on the vest. This is what I wanted to do. Alright, there we go. Much better. I feel much better. I'm going to grade some of this out, this blue out again. Gonna add a lot of gray, and I'm gonna add some ivory. And we're gonna highlight again with this nice bright blue. And let's thin that out just a little bit. And again, because we're at a little bit lighter color, we want to go in a smaller area when we highlight. So I don't want to get rid of all that blue that we put in there. So maybe I stay on top of all the folds again. And I just stay on the top of the sleeve here. And then I'll hit like some of these little elbow areas, these little folds right here. Nothing major. Very, very small highlights. See, it's almost as if it's starting to become frostier and more white. And by doing that, that blue will start to pop out more. That blue vest. Staying on the top, going around that elbow where it's curved, coming back down. And when I do this highlight, I'm kind of staying with the arm, so just kind of scratching and let the highlight follow the arm itself. And then I can bring this up a little bit. Let's see. Thin this out just a little bit more. Come back up. Just smoothing it out a little bit. And again, we'll start on the top of the folds. Just kind of using our nice thin paint. Maybe we get a little more definition in here. Go. I'll use the same blue. Thin it down. And work the tops of the folds over here. So what I wanted to do is give this a very bright blue feel, so that this blue that I'm washing out, it makes a contrast with the vibrant blue. So what I'm trying to do is kind of just mute this down a little bit. And seems to be a little bit coming through over here. And we will get this to be a little bit highlighted. I might do a different color on the trim. I haven't decided yet. And we'll take this color again. And we'll just kind of make it in the middle here. This is very easy. Just kind of highlight. And I think what we'll do is this will be where we stop with the top of her for now. I think we did a pretty good job. We'll highlight the face one more time. So we're going to take some of that ivory and mix it into the face. And again, we're going to just go where the skull goes. So this time, I think I might just want to go right up here and offset the highlight on her forehead. Also going to come down the nose in the middle. And we'll give her some stuff on the cheeks. Like so. And then we'll start giving her some color in her face. We'll start, so I kind of want to go around. I think I need to thin this down just a little bit. We're going to come around her mouth where the light is hitting. And her eyelid, top of her eyelid. There we go. And we're only going to worry about the face. I'm not going to worry too much about the hands. Although I have to get some moisture into this. It looks like, okay. And then I'm just going to kind of get onto the chest area. Again, I'm only using the same flesh tone I used before. I'm just highlighting it. Most people like to use different flesh tones. I think if you use the same flesh tone and keep going, it'll look a little bit cleaner. All right. So I think I can get a darker color into that area, but for right now, we're just gonna leave it there. So this is, let's see. So this is where we're at with the top part. So now I want to just start going in and adding some highlight to the pants. I have to figure out what I'm going to do with these boots down here. And also I want to do a little bit of band here with the ivory. So that's bright ivory. I'm going to mix in a little bit of yellow to that and brown. So I'm going to take some of this mahogany. I'm going to take some of this yellow. Looks like 2 yellows, 1 mahogany, and I'm going to take an ivory. And I'm going to create this like kind of dirty ivory color. And we're just going to kind of, or not kind of, we're going to paint that in there. And I'm going to paint that right over here, and then we're going to keep highlighting with some ivory, but now I just want to do the shade color between those bands. So very carefully I'm going to go around the flesh tone. And what's going to happen is it takes the brightness out of this band, and it sort of makes it a neutral color, so now your eyes will end up focusing somewhere else, like maybe on the top of that, like where the blouse is. So you kind of have to ask yourself, what do I want people to see when we do this? Don't want them to see, maybe you want them to see the wood that we did. The wood seems to be a little bit more on the darker side. Oh, I don't have anything on the hand down here. No worries. We will take care of that. I don't even know what that, oh, that might be a handle to this thing. No, it is hands. So I have hands to do there. All right, well that'll be a off-stream fix it. El Kraken, hey Jelly, what are we painting tonight? We're painting Xiao Liu, 77418. I don't know what happened to the package. I have the package somewhere. Here it is. Come on. So we're painting Xiao Liu, the female monk from from Reaper. Whoops, there it is, Reaper. So just a little paint along. We're just kind of yeah. So we're doing the hair. We're doing the flesh. We made this nice and bright blue to kind of offset this blue right here. And now we're going to go to the pants, but I wanted to clean this band up right here with the wood. Last week we kind of made the texture all in this wood here because I just felt like it was just a plain stick, so I wanted to see a little bit of texture, so I just made all the texture in here. Just kind of random. So yeah, so now we're just going to go in and we're going to do the pants up. I'm leaving the bottom of this because I don't know really what I want to do here. This looks like wraps. So maybe the wraps will be the same as the bow stick to kind of create that overall look. And then I just have to figure out what I'm going to do with this band here. I don't want to add another color. I could, but we'll see. That might just be a black, and we'll highlight it with gray. So I haven't really totally decided what we're doing with that yet. So we're kind of waiting, and then maybe next week we'll start working on like the trim that she has going around the sleeves. It looks like it doesn't follow all the way through, so we're gonna have to make that work. But yeah, so right now it's just a rough thing, and then we're fine-tuning. Like we fine-tune the hair, and we fine-tune the light blue a little bit, but there's a lot more fine-tuning we're going to do. So what we do on Sundays is we take a miniature that I put in my Discord, and we just paint it. For 4 weeks we paint it, and hopefully you get a nice looking tabletop piece for your role-playing games and stuff like that. But it's more or less to use the same techniques that I normally use. So if I'm glazing or if I'm mixing colors, it kind of gets you into that time frame, or that frame of mind. So all right, I'm digging the blonde hair. Thanks, thank you. It's my first time doing blonde hair. It's a little rough, but and you know, could be a little bit smoother in certain spots, but we're working on it as we go. I've learned a lot in the past couple years on hair. So all right, so we start with a mahogany here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually use my mahogany, and I'm going to darken that down with a black. I think this is kind of what we did last week. I'm just going to go in and fix up my mahogany with this black. So I think it's 3 mahoganies, 1 black, and because I really want a nice dark brown, and I'm just gonna go in and I'm gonna kind of clean up the brown here, the pants. I was thinking of giving her ivory pants, but then I was like, you know what? Let's keep it brown, and we'll make the bands underneath a lighter color. And I think that was the best choice, because now with this color here on the bow stick, I can go ahead and repaint those bands to be a lighter color. But for right now, what I'm doing is I'm repainting these to get a nice, neat, clean, dark acrylic layer on these pants here. Just cleaning up anything that you might have painted over. So how are you doing? How was your Sunday, El Kraken? Demon Speed, thank you so much for that lurk. I appreciate it. So we start a little late today, and we'll go for the 2 hours. So we're in this for another hour and 40 minutes, I think, or at least an hour and a half. So hopefully we can get these pants kind of straightened out, and then go from there. So I'm just evening things off so that the pants look like they're pants. With show 1, finishing up some Ideneth elves from Age of Sigmar. Awesome. Yeah, I have to finish up mine too. Eventually I'll get back to my stuff that I was working on, but they were kind of looking. So I was trying to do something nifty with them. So I was trying to do like these coral bow sticks. So that was for my I was giving them like coral armor and coral bow sticks. That was for my my reavers, I think they call them. And then for my thralls, if I have a thrall, I don't even think I have a thrall. Oh wait, maybe I do. Then for my thralls, I was kind of going with the purpley silver colors, and then doing these like little ice watery kind of. So I was trying to create different color skin tones for different folks. So I kind of really like the bright skin tone. So I might stay with that. But yeah, so that's how those are kind of working out. And I put these things on here to make them on rocks. Oh, thank you. Yeah, all kinds of nifty things. I really like these guys. I like painting these guys. I haven't done enough of painting stuff for myself because I've been doing a lot more twitching and trying to get, but maybe I'll do an Ideneth elf on one of these nights. Yeah. So that's the paint along that's what I kind of have in the background waiting for me. But tonight is just paint along, and we're just taking one of these pieces. I don't usually do an army one for paint alongs because I don't want to dictate somebody's army. And plus you can't just get a one-off model from Citadel. So, these are much safer to kind of play with. But I'm not opposed to maybe it'll be a reward where people can request what I paint for the paint along. But yeah, I don't like to dictate color schemes and stuff like that because it may not be the color scheme that you like or necessarily have the paints for. I'm going to go straight up mahogany now. I'm not even going to worry about the black, and I'm just going to hit sort of not the deep recesses, but I'm just going to kind of paint most of the pants on the higher edges. So you will see some of the dark color, but hopefully most of it will just be the mahogany. So I don't want to do the extreme recesses, but I do want to do all the high spots. And if you happen to miss a deep recess, that's totally fair. And that's totally fine, because this isn't our final highlight. And we can always go back and filter in a glaze or wash it down to get those deep recesses again. I just kind of like to build up certain colors. So, and again, this is the way I do stuff. And if you're painting along with me, you have a chance of doing what I do and see if it works for you. And if it doesn't work for you, then you shouldn't be doing it. You should be doing what works for you. But this is just kind of like, you know, if you want to try something new, that's what these paint-alongs are all for. Because some of us have a hard time figuring out how we want to paint something. So if somebody's already done it for you, then you can play with colors. And maybe there's 15 Xiao Lius all dressed the same way. And maybe if I find a role-playing table in your area and it's you that are playing a female monk, maybe I will recognize your female monk miniature. All right, so not much difference. Hopefully you can see some of the mahogany, but before we go any farther, we're going to add just a tad bit of ivory. Remember, ivory is a very powerful color. You don't need a lot, just right on the tip of your brush. Add it right into the mahogany and it will change its complexity all the same. In fact, I think I might add too much ivory for this next one. So now I'm just going to go in, and before I highlight anything, I'm just going to draw this line over all of the folds. So wherever you see a fold, go ahead and paint on the top of it, and then we'll figure out where all the other highlights go. And I don't think there's any folds in the thigh area here, so we'll just kind of bring that down. Trying not to hit those folds where you just painted the tops of. I'll do the same thing over here. So the top of this fold, top of this fold, this fold. There's a fold right here. There's a fold right here. And then I think I can connect all of these. But I'm glad you stopped in, El Kraken. Hopefully, if you haven't gotten one of these miniatures, you can grab one. I do post these on YouTube when I can, and the current VOD will be up for the next, at least until Friday, because that's when my third stream happens. So if you want to catch up, you can go to the YouTube page. I usually throw the YouTube link into the Discord when I am done. So there you go. That's sort of a highlight on those. So we'll go back here and we'll do the same thing. We're going to hit all of the tops of those folds. But yeah, so I'll put the link on the YouTube channel, or excuse me, the link to the YouTube channel on the Discord page when I export it. That way it's always there. And then you can always wait until all of them are done and then follow along. But the only problem with that is you can't ask me any questions on YouTube. You just have to kind of understand what I'm doing, which is okay if you do. But if you want to ask questions and paint along, you have to join us live. Or hope that somebody asks your question if they're already in here. I've had some people do this with me and they really got some good results. They really enjoy it. So it's worth doing. I've done a couple with other professional painters and I enjoy doing them. It's just a matter of me having the time to actually do it. I don't always get the time to paint along with people that I want to, so I have to go look at their VODs and start painting along with them on their VODs, but then I don't get to ask my questions, so. Alright, I think we can use a little bit more ivory in there. So we got a little more ivory. Again, every time you add a brighter color to the color you're trying to paint, you always have to use smaller areas to paint. So here I'm going to try to do again what I did before, and that is stay on top of the folds. So kind of like right here. And I think there's a fold right here. And there's definitely a fold right here. Definitely a fold right here. Right here. I think this just kind of connects in there. And if you paint on top of the folds, then you kind of understand where to kind of put your highlights. And I want to do a smaller area here. Just kind of smooth these out a little bit. And there's nothing to say that once we're done, and if it's too bright and you're like, oh no, I went way too bright with my highlights, you can actually glaze this back down with that mahogany. The problem is that I'm too close to now the band color, so I am going to have to change that band color. But before we do that, just going to continue on here. So I'm just going to grab these folds here and just paint the tops of them. There's this little hole right here, this little hole right here, and I will connect all that stuff together. Oh, I might have missed the fold. I think I just painted over a fold. That's alright. We can fix it. There's nothing saying we can't fix what we just did. So I'm just kind of fixing these holes here. Alright. We have something that looks like that. I'm going to add a little bit more mahogany to this color only because I want a little shade, and I'm going to add a little bit of that darker, you know where that black one is? So that black mixture we made, and I'm just going to kind of fix along in here. Like, so this is my shadow right here. So I'm just going to kind of go inside, and it's like a highlight, but it's more of a, it's a mixing thing. So I took that dark shadow and this light, and all I'm doing is I'm going towards the light just to kind of mix things up, and I'm underneath the pant area here. And so what that does is it makes a little bit of a shade in there. And it may not shade it right away, you gotta wait for it to dry, but since all the colors are still in there, it's just gonna kind of blend in. And you can go as far in or out, depending on where you want that shade. And if you want to show some shade under the shirt and the vest, you can do so. All right, now just to kind of clean this up, I'm going to go over here to this, well, it was yellow, it was mahogany, and it was ivory, right? Whoops, that's too much ivory. Gonna give it a little more yellow. Alright. So this is the color I want for the bands underneath, because those are going to be the shade color of these bands. Eventually we're going to go ivory with them. So just going to kind of quickly paint in this so that it looks different from the actual pant color, so that we don't get confused what we're doing. Now the other reason why we do these paint alongs is to show you that I can keep using the same colors in my palette and everything will look as if it belongs. So you don't have to really grab different flesh tones, different brown tones. And what this color will do is it brings in that yellow from the hair. So this color, even though it's only on the pant legs and the band of the bow stick, the yellow of this is in the hair, so it'll kind of read as a uniform miniature. But if you have this color that you've already mixed, there's no reason why you can't use that color. It'd probably be better because then you always have it. Now these are wraps, so they will eventually go to a bright white, or not bright white, a bright ivory. But she does have these little toad things here, so maybe we'll keep those as a darker, as this color here. And let's see, so I want this color here, and I just want to bring this back a little bit. going to bring out a little bit more of this fold. And I'm already dry down here, so I have to mix more. All right, so that was this mahogany and this ivory. There we go. We'll add a little bit of water to keep it moist. And we'll do the back side. This might be a little too watery, we'll see. So I'm going to do all the tops of the folds. Yep, this is very watery. So I have to be careful with this. It's almost like a glaze, so I have to be careful. So I'll fix this paint in a second, but hopefully you don't have a glaze that you're working with. Just gotta get rid of this pooling in here. Okay. And let's see. So mahogany, mix it in there. Ivory, mix it in there. And see if we have, still might be watery. Alright. Well, that's unfortunate. But, you know what we can do with this is actually kind of glaze in some of this stuff down here. Because if I can glaze with this, then I can kind of fix some of my shadows, some of my folds. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a new batch of this because that one's a little too watery. And I will use this paint, and I'll use that other one to kind of glaze things down. Let me try this again. This time I want to do the tops of the folds. And there's not too many folds back here. And we'll continue on. And we'll do the same thing over here. Top of this fold, top of this fold, top of this fold, and then this whole thigh right here, the back of the thigh I should say. This whole front side, and then we have this little shadow side that we will get that darker color back in. So we'll take this color that we used, this darker color we used for the very first application, and I'm just going to kind of paint all of the high spots in underneath her. It just adds a little bit more definition. We're not really adding lighting effects to her, but it's always nice to get that value in there, and you can always cheat the value by just doing darker colors underneath the miniature to make it look like there's a shadow. I mean, if I was really doing shadows, I would paint in all underneath here. I'd paint in all underneath here, but we're not. We're just painting under the person themselves. We will take a little bit of ivory again. This time we will mix it into our nice bright color. And one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually use a little bit of gray just to mute this down a little bit. I don't want it super bright, but I don't want to keep it, I don't want to bring it up to an ivory either. So what we're going to do, take our brush here. Now that we've added some of that gray in here, we're going to go in and we're just going to take care of some, you can actually see where, whoops, you can actually see where some of these folds are, right? So like kind of like right under here. And all I'm really doing is trying to get the folds defined. It's not like I'm trying to do a lot of lighting, but I kind of want to get those folds defined in there because it adds some volume and texture to the piece. And then I can also add a little bit of highlight going down the center of this thigh. Right? And I might want to do a little bit more on this side. And what I'm doing is I'm just drawing these texture lines around the leg. And so see, that gives me a little bit of a leg right there. I'll do the same thing over here. So I have this nice little fold right here. There's a fold right here. And then I will follow this leg going straight down. And then I will do these little holes here. And then if it becomes too much, if we don't like what we have, we can always glaze it down. So I'll just kind of do the tops of these folds here. Do the same thing over here. There's a fold right there. There's a fold right there, and then right here. And there's one right there. And right above the leg. And just a very controlled highlight going down there. Very controlled highlight going down here. This leg goes a little bit wavy down below, so that's why I did that. And then I can just kind of hit this area back here to kind of blend it all in. So if people look at it that way, there's a little shadow there, not too much. And then over here, just to kind of connect those pieces in. Just kind of add a little bit to the folds. I mean, I didn't do a good job fixing the mold line on here or cutting it off, but so that's what that looks like. It's a little more on the gray side now because we added that gray in, but we added that brightness. And what I'll do is I'll add in the color back in, but not before we get that final highlight. And so to get the final highlight, we're going to add some ivory to this mixture to brighten it up. Again, we don't want to go complete ivory. We want to keep it a little bit, but now I'm just going to kind of pick and choose my battles here. So I'm just going to kind of do this nice bright color there, and I'm going to kind of stay along that line. So like anywhere there's this fold that would pick up light coming this way, that's kind of what I want to do. So this area would pick up light, this area would pick up light, this area would pick up light, and then this very controlled kind of pinpoint line right here. All right, so we'll do that. And it doesn't have to be super pinpointed. I mean, it can have a little thickness to it because it is material. But I'm going to do the same thing here. So this will get some light. This will get some light right there. The bottom of these guys will. And then I just kind of indicate a little bit of light straight down that way. And as it dries, you probably won't see it. Then why do we do it? Well, because when we glaze in, you'll actually get to see all of those highlights. So this will catch the highlight right here. This will catch highlight. This here will catch highlight. So I'm doing this U, so if it makes a U, whoops. I'm just kind of doing inside the fold. And then I'm just doing in the middle. Right there. Okay. All right. Now for the glazing. So we're gonna make a quick glaze using the mahogany and Gilliman flesh. So the first thing we want to do is take some ivory. We're going to thin that out a bit. We'll even use this color here. This is a nice thin ivory. And we're going to put some Gilliman flesh with that. Just to give a nice darker, richer color. And we want that to be nice and thin. Okay, I have to get a paper towel. Remember, anytime we glaze, we have a paper towel. And we coffee stain it. Whoop. So you just put it in there to bring the tip back. Once that dot gets to be small, right? We use the side of the brush and we just kind of apply it. So what this will do is it will darken everything down, but our highlights will still be there. It will soften any highlight that we threw in there. And this is a way of getting back some of that mahogany that we've been using, and we punched it to an uncomfortable brightness. So I'll take that glaze again, touching the paper towel, using the side tip of the brush. Go ahead, just throw it in there. And you throw it in all over, as if you were washing, but you're not really washing. You're filtering in the color back in. We washed it out. And now we've got it back. But the highlight is still going to be there. So you can't really look at it now because it's wet. But when this darkens down, you're still going to see those highlights, but it's going to be back to the mahogany we started with. And if your highlights are spot on, then you will see those highlights in your pants. And you'll see those dark colors still there when you glaze back in. But now we have to wait for it to dry, so we can't really do anything with the pants again. There we go. All right. Let's take our ivory that we've been using, and we're going to add it to this mixture that we've been using for the bands and now the wraps of the legs. And what I'm going to do is very controlled. Use my lining brush, look for those bands, and just paint over them, keeping the dark in the recesses. So you just want to paint these bands. So you're going to have to look for them on here, because I don't know if I can pick them out for you. I mean, you can wait for the video to see where they go, but I'm just trying to get as many of these bands or wraps as I can find. And this is just a small highlight to what you have. So let me see if I can get more ivory in here, because you want to be able to see it. And like I said before, we can always glaze things back down. So let's start on this side. Looks like I have a band right here and a band right here. The edge is going to need to be done. Yeah, so I put 2 ivories in here, and that seems to be working pretty good. So I don't know if you can see that, but that's what that looks like. And again, as if you don't go too stark with your highlight at the beginning, then it starts to look a little more natural, looks a little bit more professional maybe. I don't know if that's what we want, but it looks more realistic. If you go too stark with your brightness and your highlight and your shade, then it looks more cartoony. Maybe that's what you want. That's why a lot of people blackline for their cartoon style painting, because they want that stark contrast. All right, need to make this a little thinner, so I can use it properly. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing on the wraps here. I'm not going to worry too much about the texture of the wraps right now. I'm just going to try to get the individual wraps done. I can worry about the texture when I highlight the bands, but you want to make sure you know where the bands are first. And some will be smaller than others. So you can see some are just smaller than others. And it could be the fact that that's a rope that's tying them together. That's why the tip of your brush is always important to have, because that's what you're painting with, to get into those little tiny areas. Okay. Do the same thing on this side. Again, it's not the final highlight, but you do want to have, because we can always make these lines darker if we highlight more on the outside. So right now it's a subtle highlight, but if we get into the ivory, it won't be a subtle highlight. There we go. Okay. I think this is where we're gonna end today. So I'll do the backs of these and we'll take a look at her and we'll see where we're gonna go next week. So again, I think I may have to post the link to the VOD on YouTube, but this VOD part 2 will be on until at least Friday. So I'll have to import to YouTube before that. So if you do Discord, if you do ! Discord, it will take you to my Discord, and that's where I will post the color palette that we use, that I will post the miniature that we will be painting. So for right now, until Adepticon in March, so March 18th is when I go to Adepticon, we're going to be working on this. I just thought it was a nice simple piece to start us back up on the paint-alongs. But I do have April's miniature up there, and I do have May's, and I think June's. And maybe I don't have June's, I don't remember. But if you're looking to do some of these paint-alongs, you can join the Discord and look at the paint-alongs for 2024 channel. That's where we're relying on our information. My Discord's an information hub, so I'll try to post as much many things out there. But you can always go there and look at what the next miniature is that we're painting, and its color palette. And we'll have to kind of figure out. So you know what? I lied. I'm going to do one more thing, and I hope that it's okay with you. But I think I'm going to go right to the black, and I think I'm just going to make this belt black. Only because I don't know what color I want to do it yet. And it's kind of affecting everything that I look at on her. So what I'm going to do is just paint this black really quick. Being very careful not to touch anything that I'm not supposed to touch with the black, because we all know black, very powerful color, and will dictate mistakes, and then you have to clean it up, and black is hard to clean up if we're not careful. So just take your time with this. It'll give me a chance to keep talking a little bit. But yep, that's my Discord, so anytime you want to paint along. Right now it's on Sundays. We're going to go back to Thursdays when the summer comes. And I think the next on the docket is a Knoll Ravager. I could be wrong, but I thought I put that on there. And that's also going to be a Reaper miniature, because we always need monsters to fight in our campaigns, and Gnolls seem to be a very common enemy, as much as orcs and goblins and stuff like that. But it's also nice to have a player character or two. And then we'll see if we can build up to a big boss by the end of the year. I think the end of the year we did a vampire, so I'll have to find a big boss to gear up for. Maybe that's what these paint-alongs should be, just kind of like a theme of characters and monsters. But I was thinking of doing some other stuff. I've got some stuff on the way. And if you order from Reaper and you spend so much money, you can get yourself some free stuff. And usually those are the things that I kind of throw in the paint-alongs a little bit, because people have access to them. There we go. So I just didn't want to paint over her hair, so I did a little bit there. So we're gonna have to work a little bit on that darker blue and try to get that to pop a little bit more. I did separate it from the light blue, so we have to make the darker blue pop more. But there we go. So far we have that color, and she's ready to go on the table. She's fully dressed, but she may not be fully complete. Alright, so looking at her for next week, I think we're going to try to get some color in her face. We give her some lips, and I'll show you how to do that. So we might add a little bit of red to our repertoire, only for coloring purposes. We're not going to add red to the overall scheme, but just to give her some rosy cheeks and to give her some lips and stuff like that. Or we could do purple. If that's somewhere we want to go, because purple we can use other places, but really I think it's just going to be red. So just have a red or a pink on hand for next week. We'll try to fix that up, and then we'll continue working on these wraps. We'll continue getting these toes and these shoes kind of fleshed out, highlight some of the black, and yeah, we'll just kind of clean her up and get her ready for the table. So that will be next Sunday. I kind of like the fact that we're going with closed eyes on here, right? That just seems to me like, you know, I'm feeling out where the creatures are. I'm engaged. I'm sensing. That's what it reminds me of. So I've never done closed eyes before. So there you go. And that's what we did here, so hopefully you learned that. And then we'll do some more with this rock stuff. But there she is, a little bit more done. I'll take these off. I think she's coming out good. I mean, I could take any basic model and turn it into a 4-week stretch. There's some other stuff I want to do here, but I think on the last week is going to be some freehand stuff. We might start some freehand stuff next week. Not freehand per se, but getting some kind of trim Maybe want some ivory trim somewhere. You know, so we'll kind of gauge that as we go. But there she is. Hopefully you had fun painting tonight. I had fun painting with you, and we will be here next Sunday. So let me let me pull off the music here and come back out here. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining in tonight and painting along with me. It's been a blast. This is week number 2. Look for this VOD next weekend up on YouTube. Look for it all week until Friday. Our next stream will be on Tuesday. That's technical tryouts. And one thing I was thinking of was trying to paint some ice. But we'll see. I don't know exactly what we're going to do, but if you want to watch me work on something and fail at it or get stubborn at it, technical tryout Tuesdays is always fun because I'm looking at doing certain effects, using certain paints, or trying to create certain, or just practicing certain techniques. So there's like feathering and stippling and OSL and trying to paint ice to make it look like ice, and working with white and black, getting the different shades and colors to make our blacks not so black or our whites not, you know, so white, because those are the extreme colors that we end and there's nowhere to go. So how do we kind of create black to be its blackest in the recesses, and how do we get white to be the whitest as the highlights? So there's things like that. So that's kind of what we practice on Tuesdays. Join us there for that. That's 7 to 8:30 p.m. on Eastern Standard Time. And then on Fridays, we call it Freedom Fridays. I take anything that's in my film case brigade, which means if it's on a film case, it's not done. And so we try to work on that, getting all of my half-started projects done. And that will include some Warhammer down the line to paint for myself, Conquest miniatures that I've started and left there, projects that I've started on Discord chats and I left there. So there's a lot. There's tons of stuff. So that's going to be my Fridays. And then we're here, obviously, on Sundays to do the paint-alongs, which we'll come back to Xiao Liu. I think that's how you say it. Xiao Liu. I'm not sure. But it's a female monk from Reaper. So, and then join me on Discord. I'll put in my Discord so that you have it. It's !Discord for those that want to play along. Oops. Boom. That's an information center. It's not some place that I normally hang out and chat with, but if you want to hang out and chat, I'd be more than willing to do it. It's also where you can get the, go to the channel advertisement slideshow every time I stream, no matter if it's for paint-alongs, no matter if it's for technical tryouts, or just me painting. You get shouted out for all of your awesome work that you do. It doesn't have to be miniature painting, but it can be anything, crafting, knitting, digital art, sketch art, you name it. I will post it and make you a, and if you stream, you don't have to stream. You can put everything on Instagram if you do Instagram and stuff like that. So if you want some shout outs during my streams, that's what we're doing. All right, so with all of that, last week we didn't raid. This week we'll raid. I think I know who I want to raid into. Well, let's go find if they're on. They are on. Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know who a Night Whisperer is, please give him a look. Stay in there for a couple minutes, see if you like what he's working on, and give him a follow if you are not following a Night Whisperer already. So let me do this right now. Did that work? Yes. I think that's right, a Night Whisperer. So we're going to go and raid into a Night Whisperer. Let me just quickly pull him up so we can raid into him. He's probably lurking into me. I have no idea. All right. And I will go to his page so that I can make sure that we're not in an ad when we go in there. And I'm trying to figure out what he's actually painting. It looks like he's working with some oils. He might actually be playing with oils. So give him a quick check, and we'll see everybody on Tuesday at 7:30. Have a great night, everybody.
But there's good gear in Heroics now. It's still 4 something, so I think. Oh, hey, Joe Tip. Welcome in, welcome in. I'm actually just I'm taking a break building a Space Marine while I'm waiting for the pre-glaze to finish setting on this guy here. Hey, thank you, thank you. How was your stream? Did you do a